Today's message is called Forgiveness and Letting Go. So I believe that forgiveness and letting go are those are actually tied together. Those two words. You can't really have one without the other. You can't really truly let go until you truly forgive yourself or forgive other people. And so today I just wanted to take a deep dive into that forgiveness and letting go, and really just dive into that how it can help you in so many areas of your life. So let's just dive right in. So psychologists generally define forgiveness as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. Just as important as defining what forgiveness is, though, is understanding what forgiveness is not. Experts who study or teach forgiveness make clear that when you forgive, you do not gloss over or deny the seriousness of someone's offense against you. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting about it like it never happened, or nor does it mean condoning it or excusing the offenses. Though forgiveness can help repair a damaged relationship, it doesn't obligate you to reconcile with the person who has harmed you or release them from legal accountability. Instead, forgiveness brings the forgiver peace of mind and frees him or her from corrosive anger. So that was a big, large statement that I just made there, a lot about what forgiveness does. And as we dive into that, we begin to see that forgiveness is really something that we need in our lives. So Benjamin Franklin said that many people die at 25 and they aren't buried until they are 75. So that means they don't die physically, but really the resentment and the anger and the hurt and the way the bitterness in life, they've already, pretty much died in their life. They're not thriving in their life. They're not living their life anymore. They're angry at people, angry at themselves, angry at family, friends, whoever it is. They've lived their life for that 50 years in that state of mind. So it might as well just be a corpse. So I think that's a great quote by Benjamin Franklin there. While there is some debate over whether true forgiveness requires positive feelings towards the offenders, experts agree that it at least involves letting go of deeply held negative feelings. In that way, it empowers you to recognize the pain you suffered without letting that pain define you, enabling you to heal and move on with your life. So, when someone has done you wrong, and you feel something towards that person, you feel these type of feelings, or maybe you feel like they've done you wrong, and it's just something in your mind, it's your perception is off, or maybe there's some misunderstandings. There's these feelings that come up inside of you, like I'm angry at this person, I hate this person, I don't want to be around this person. And it'd be different if you're like, okay, I'm letting that go, I'm moving on with my life, and moving on. But when you start to harbor those feelings and you don't let those feelings go, and you're holding on to that person, you're thinking about that person all the time, every time you see them, that you get angry, or every time you're around them, you feel these feelings of, gosh, I wish that they were lived in a different town, or they lived in a different city, or they weren't anywhere near me, or I wish this would have never happened, I wish I'd never met this person. All these thoughts that can come up in your head, about this person. I hope they get what's coming to them, These things can really just rot your soul. They can eat at you. And I've had that in my life where I felt like certain people have done me wrong, or these situations have done, this situation didn't go the way I thought it had, or I had a boss who I've worked for people who before I felt like they've done me wrong, and I've worked on trying to forgive those people, trying to let those people go, because I never wanted to be a person that just lived in anger and resentment, and let it control my life. And so I think that's very important for us, from what the stuff I've just read, that we do forgive, but we're not like saying that it never happened, but we're saying I'm gonna forgive this person. I'm gonna let this situation go, and I'm gonna try to move on. So today we're diving in to try to talk about how to do some of that. How do we let someone go? So, as I was explaining it, I thought about a story. Is actually a mentor pastor friend of mine shared with me about this lady that came into his office and was saying that, talking about her mother. He used to, counsel people. And so she was talking about her mother, how her mother did her wrong. And she had all these bitter feelings towards her mother. And, she could never forgive her mother. And she just keeps seeing her mother in her head, repeating these. Her mother used to speak negative words to her. And so she said the words, I'm just rehearsing the words in my head all the time. All I can think about is how much I don't like, how much resentment and hate I have towards her. And I just keep hearing her voice in my head. And her pastor, the pastor that my mentor at that time, he actually said to her, "So is your mother alive?" And she said, "No, my mother, she's dead." And so, in a lot of ways, you would think, "Oh, I'm sorry about your mother. I'm sorry about these, what happened to you. I'm sorry about, all the things that happened to her, the abuse, verbal abuse, mental abuse, all the things you went through as a kid." No, he said something to her that was very important. I think it was straight to the point. It was actually truth. It's what she needed to hear. It's not what she wanted to hear, but it's what she needed to hear. He looked at her and he said, "Lady, your mom's dead. She's gone. She's buried in the ground. She ain't even in that body anymore. She's already moved on. She's dead." And the lady got real upset. Like, "How could you say that? You don't have some sympathy towards me. That's kind of just blunt, And he said, "Well, the problem is she's dead, but you keep digging her back up. So she's gone, girl, but you keep digging her corpse back up and bringing her up out of the grave. She's gone." So remember what I was telling you. She also needed to let go in that situation. She needed to forgive her mother. She needed to forgive herself and let go of those feelings towards her. And so I think that was very important because she was digging up her mom. Her mom has been dead for years. And she's living as if her mom was still living with that voice in her head, as if her mom was still alive, but her mom's long gone. And so I think a lot of times we do that too. We things that should be buried and gone, we dig that back up, and we try to, rehearse those things. So I wanted to just move on with it here a little bit. So something to think about when you are forgiven. When you're truly forgiven, you learn to forgive others. When you're forgiven, you learn to forgive others. So let's break down forgiveness a little bit. Forgiveness, the Greek word is, I'm going to try to say these right, aphiame and chorzomai. So aphiame means to forgive the sins. This is in the Greek, to forgive sins, to set free, forgive sins, set free, release or discharge, canceling of debt, or releasing someone from commitment. The other word, chorzomai, comes from the Greek word charis, which means grace, forgiving each other just as God forgives us. So 2 important words. When we forgive someone with the idea of aphiamai, we let something go. We don't bring it up again. We don't let it take over our hearts. And that's huge right there. We forgive someone with the idea, when we forgive someone with the idea of aphiamai forgiveness, we let something go. We don't bring it up again, and we don't let it take over our hearts. Because truly, when you don't forgive someone, that person that you don't forgive, they move on. Sometimes they move on with their life and they may not even think of you again. But you have let you've let it take over your heart where it controls your life. So that person's not even around you, but they're still controlling you. Their words, their actions, they're still controlling you. And I know there's some deep hurts out there that have happened to some people. They've been hurt in really bad ways by people that are very close to them. But the thing that you have to do is you have to let that go. You've got to just forgive that person and let that go. Is it going to be easy? No. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not easy because those feelings, they come back up. I can think of things and people in my life where I've chosen to say, you know what, I forgive them. Even if I'm the one that wronged them, I forgive myself. So first I say, I feel like I may have been one to wrong someone, so I forgive myself. But then I say, but in some ways I feel like this person or these people or this individual or this family member has wronged me. And so I have to forgive. I have to just work to forgive them. I have to actually see myself visually in my mind. So I do it, wrapping my arms around that person and hugging them. Even if I don't want to. I know it's kind of weird, strange. But even if I don't want to, I have to visualize myself doing that. I'm letting you go. I'm forgiving you, and saying it over again. And sometimes you're like, okay, I feel good. I've forgiven that person. And then what happens? Those feelings come back up again, and you have to do it again. It is a process sometimes to really let people go. Now, does that mean that you let them back into your life? You let them have place in your life again? Does that mean that you you don't have some boundaries up. No, you have to do the boundaries, and you have to realize where that person needs to be and in your life, or that person could hurt you again, or you have to try to reconcile with that person. Maybe you need to reconcile with that person. Maybe you need to talk to that person. Maybe those things need to happen. Maybe there's a situation where you can do those. So I'm going to move on with it. So we don't take unforgiveness in our hearts. So let's look at the Hebrew words for forgiveness, which include the word selachai or selachah. So I'm not great at saying Hebrew, so I'm just telling you my interpretation of it. It's usually translated as forgiveness. This is the first step in seeking forgiveness after committing a sin or a wrong. It is a request to the injured party to acknowledge the wrongdoing, express regret, and promise to never do it again. So saying, I'm sorry, I messed up, I'm going to work, and I'm going to promise never to do that again. Now, if you do it again, there you can expect certain results to follow, But maybe there's restoration that can happen between you and that person. And so that's the hope of this word, is that there could be restoration in it, which restoration is ultimately the one thing we all want in our life. Reconciliation, restoration with that person or that individual. So the second word is mekala. These are Hebrew words, usually translating as wiping away. This is a response to, wiping away, this is a response to request to restore a relationship after a wrongdoing or sin. It can also mean canceling a debt, foregoing what one deserves, or immediate and complete forgiveness. This is hard to do. I've heard of a story of a man who his family member was killed by someone, and he's really angry at this person, of course, rightfully so. And the guy killed his loved one, and the guy was in prison, and the guy was just so mad at this guy. I want to hurt him. I want him dead. I want the worst for him. And he realized after a while, I think some people had talked to him too, that in his life, that this was eating him up. It was destroying his life. He couldn't function. He couldn't go on with his life. Yes, he was so hurt because this man murdered a member of his family, killed them in cold blood. He was so hurt by it, but he made the choice, and he said, I never will completely move past this unless I do this. I need to forgive this man. And for him, that meant something that he did that most people that's crazy. He actually went up to the jail. He asked to speak to the man. Now the man could have said no, but the man, I think in his heart, the guy that killed his loved one really wanted to find some resolution of this. He'd been in prison for a while. So he met with this man, and he looked the guy in the head, and he said, you know what? I know what you did. You killed my loved one. You hurt, you killed them. You took them out of my life. But he looked him straight in the eyes, and he said, I've been praying for you, and I really feel like I need to forgive you. And so he looked the guy in the eye, and he said, I forgive you. I'm letting you go, and I forgive you for what you did. I forgive you for that wrongdoing, and I'm letting you go, and I'm just saying, I'm releasing you. And just thinking about it makes me just, wow. And the man that he said this to, the man broke down. He started to cry, and he was upset. And it upset him, but it also hit his heart. And he said, thank you. I needed that. I appreciate you forgiving me, because I've lived a life of hell in this prison, and I knew what did was wrong to you. And I've come to the reality of it, and I've come to my senses and known what I've done is wrong. And he said, thank you for doing this, and there was a restoration that took place. Now, this guy wasn't back in his life. He's in prison for the rest of his life, but there's still a restoration that took place. And the guy that forgave him, he was able to move on, and the other guy was able to come to grips to what he had done, and he was able to move on. Both were able to move on. But what a huge thing this guy did. I mean, he didn't have to do that. He could have done it but for him, that's what he needed to do, because that's what he felt was what was necessary for him to move on in life, was to let this guy go. And wow, that was powerful. So let's move on with the discussion. So another word is kapara. It's a Hebrew word, usually translated as an atonement. This is a response to someone who says they can't live with themselves because of what they did. Goes back to the guy in prison, what he did to that man and his family. It is considered to be beyond human capacity and is accomplished by Yom Kippur on the Day of Atonement. So this is more of a spiritual thing, kapara, as a deity forgiving. So So let's look at the next word, which is salah. This word is used to describe God's offer of forgiveness to sinners. It is exclusively a divine action. So that's more, we're going to dive more into that later in the discussion, is a divine action. So let's look at what Psychology Today says about the forgiveness. Let's first look at anger. So in forgiveness just doesn't, when you don't forgive someone, it's not like, I'm not going to forgive this person, I hate this person. Most of the time it's tied to anger. And so today we think about that. We think about the word anger. And, when you are mad at someone that they've done you wrong, there's anger that's there, and anger, and then it can lead to bitterness. And let me just tell you something. Nothing's wrong with being angry. So some people will say, don't be angry, don't be mad. And there's nothing, that is a normal human emotion to be angry about something. The thing is, though, eventually you have to move on, because you have to live your life and you have to let these people go. Now, remember, you don't have to let them back into your life, but you need to let them go. You need to forgive them, you have to consciously do this. It's not something that just comes automatic. It may come automatic for you, but for most of us, it's not automatic. So the first step to uncover your anger is by exploring how you avoided or addressed the emotion. So how are you avoiding and addressing this anger that you're feeling? Are you saying, why am I angry? What are the reasons? I encourage you to write it down, to pray about it, to think about it. Why am I angry? Well, I'm angry because A, this person did this, or B, this situation happened, or my boss did this to me. He fired me, and he shouldn't have fired me, or this situation happened with a family member. But why are you angry? You're addressing them. The second thing to do is to make a decision to forgive. So you have to say, okay, I'm angry. I am mad. I'm upset about this situation, about this person, about this family member. I'm angry at myself because of what I did and who I wronged. So you can be angry at yourself, beat yourself up, guilt trips yourself. But the second thing to do in that, you've acknowledged it. Okay, it's there. The anger's there. The feeling's there. The emotion is there. It's there. I'm acknowledging. I'm not ignoring it and trying to move on, because I think that's bad, when you do that, because it starts to affect every part of your life and you don't even realize it. Psychologically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, it can affect you physically, man, make you sick. The second thing to do is to make a decision to forgive this person. So I'm going to say, I'm forgiving them. I forgive them for what they've done. And to begin by acknowledging that ignoring or coping with the offense hasn't worked. It's not going to work. I'm just telling you right now, to bury anger, to bury unforgiveness, it's not going to work. It's going to affect other parts of your life. It's going to make you jaded. It's going to change your personality. If you're a kind person and you have those things in your life, it's going to mess you up. So you have to try to start working towards that. Not overnight, but try to start working that. And therefore, forgiveness might provide a path forward. So there's a way forward with it. You may not see the way, but eventually, as you learn to let that anger go, as you learn to forgive that person, to say, I have these feelings, they're there, I'm going to forgive them. I'm going to release them. Very, very, very big thing to do. Okay, and so we give you the first step, uncover your anger. It's the second, make a decision to forgive. And the third is to cultivate forgiveness by developing compassion for the offender. This is a big one, people. This is a big one. You got to cultivate forgiveness by developing compassion for the offender. Reflect on whether the act was due to malicious intent or circumstances in the offender's life. So this is crazy, right? Now you're uncovering your anger. You're saying it's there. You're making the decision, I'm going to forgive them. And now you're saying, not only am I forgiving them, but I'm going to have compassion, like the guy did toward the prisoner who murdered his family member. Now I've got a compassion for this person. I think this is where I think in our culture today, we get to 1 and we get to 2, right? We uncover the anger, we get counseling, we uncover it, we address the emotion, we forgive the person, we're releasing them. But then to go a step further and start to have compassion. Why did this person do me wrong? Why did this family member do this? Why did this boss do this? I can think back to a boss that I had who was an alcoholic, and he fired me. He randomly just fired me on my birthday. Crazy, I know. And because he was shorthanded, I'd already worked my shift, and he was shorthanded, and he wanted me to come to work. And he fired me, right? So I was upset about that, because I got wrongfully terminated. And so, but that meant me going through the process of, trying to, get unemployment. And so put me out of a job. The stability was gone there. And even with unemployment, I wasn't making as much. Of course, if you've ever been on unemployment, you know that works. So I started developing, but I started to say, why did this person do this? And in my mind, I thought the reason he does this because A, B, and C, the alcohol. He had a lot. I saw that when I worked with this individual, he had emotional issues. I knew that, and I said, you know what? This guy's only doing these things because of what is happening in his life. It's flowing out of his life. It's flowing out of his heart, and it's flowing into other people. And I made a decision to have compassion for him and to say, if I ever saw this guy again, I would say I would be having a good attitude. I want to have a good attitude towards this person. And to start to have, it's raining here, so to start to have some compassion and some mercy for this person and try to understand why they did what they did to me. Does it make it right? No. But it gets me in a place where I can start to relate to them because I see we're all human, and I can kind of see myself in there and say, hey, given those set of circumstances, maybe I would do that to somebody. And to say, I need to let this person go. Reflect on whether the act was due to malicious intent or circumstances in the offender's life. And lastly, so you're seeing, first, uncover your anger. Second is to make a decision to forgive. Third, cultivate forgiveness by developing compassion for the offender and trying to understand why they did what they did to you. These are huge. And lastly, release the harmful emotions and reflect on how you may have grown from the experience and the act of forgiveness itself. I believe that when you start to do these 4 things, actually it's 5 things, but when you start to do these things, I think that forgiveness becomes easier for you. I think it becomes easier when you forgive others and also forgiving yourself. I think it becomes easier because, things happen to us every day. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic. Maybe a business deal went wrong, whatever it is. And hey, these people are who's at fault. And you can point a finger and you could go to a courtroom and prove your case. You got the evidence. But see, the thing is though, I think it still reflects you. You have to learn to let the situation go. You have to learn to release those people and grow from it because it can become easier. So when something happens, something hits you, someone hurts you, an offense comes, you feel the anger, you feel all those emotions, and then you go, you know what, I'm going to let them go. I'm going to forgive them. And actually, right at that moment, if you can say that, and I'm letting them go, I'm forgiving them, I'm letting them go. Now, it may not, like I'm saying, the emotions may not follow, but I think when you start thinking in your brain and you start saying the words, emotions will follow. I think that's true with a lot of things. The emotions will follow because you're making that conscious effort. I'm not going to hold on to this anymore. So, Seneca said, anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Woo! So when we're angry and we stay in that anger and we don't forgive and we don't let go, that is actually more harmful to us than the thing that provoked us. Because the person who did it to you may not even know they did it to you. But that right there is harming you than the actual offense itself. When you see people that are carefree and they don't let things bother them, they seem to be happier and in a better state of mind. I know that we have people that are more cynical and people that are just more, I wouldn't say ignorant, but they're more oblivious to things. People doing them wrong, they're just oblivious to it. And that can help with them moving on. But I think that when we hold on to that anger, and if we don't restrain our anger and we don't say, hey man, I can't let this get out of control, I think that hurts us more than what actually happened to us. So we have to learn to let that go. So when we let that go, the anger, we don't, because what happens is you have anger, and then the next step of the anger is I'm angry at this person. I'm thinking about this person all the time. I'm not working towards any type of forgiveness or reconciliation. And I'm never going to forget what they did to me. And they're going to pay. And I hope something bad happens to them. Guess what you've now got into? You've now got into the area of resentment. And that's like a deeper level of anger. You've gotten resentment. So if you got into that point of anger, And now you're in resentment. I can't stand to be around the person. I can't stand to see the person. You know, you want to get to a place where when you see someone in public that may have done you wrong, or maybe you've done them wrong, you want to get to a place when you see that person, you can say, you know what, I could walk up there and give them a hug. I'm not saying you do, but I could walk up there and talk to them, and I could not have anger and bitter feelings. Yes, they did me wrong. Yes, I may have done them wrong, but I can have a feelings of, hey, I forgive this person. I'm moving on. I'm going to live my life. I'm going to be a mature adult. It's all about maturity. You know, I've met people in my life that, man, they're in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they're the most bitter, unforgiving, you know, uncooperating, most stirred up people you can ever meet. And I think that all comes with just the old saying that age does not always, some people say age equates to wisdom, and that's not always true. Some people are living their lives seniors living their lives in anger and disappointment and hurt and regret, and people that have done stuff to them 20 years ago, and like the woman, they're still burying that person can be dead, and they're still bringing that back up. Not good. So how do I overcome resentment? So resentment can sometimes linger for years, even if we believe that we've moved on or forgotten about it. I've had that. You know, I've forgiven this person, I forgive this situation, and the feelings come right back up, and I'm like, I forgave them. I worked past this. I thought I was healed. You know, I thought I was good. And I made the conscious effort of, okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to say, okay, I see this person. I see this situation. I see me loving myself. I see me forgiving this person. I see me letting them go. I letting this family member go, letting this boss go, letting this person who's done in this extreme cases, letting this person who's killed someone that I cared about go. I'm letting these situations go, because, you know, that's why we have law and order in that situation. But I'm letting these situations go. It's not easy. And I'm saying I'm going to choose not to have resentment, because it's going to linger. It's going to eat me. It's like a cancer. You know, I know a family member that I have that they basically held on to resentment for years. And the resentment has caused them to have major physical problems. Now, someone's going to say, well, maybe the problems were genetic. And I can say, I think with this person, the problems are not genetic. The person, these problems that they're having, I think they've been brought up by years of resentment, anger, unforgiveness, bitterness, envy, all these different feelings, and it's now physically showing itself, you know, because those things can stress you out. So, to release resentment, reflect on why the person may have committed the offense, sit with the pain, and then try to forgive the other person, because forgiveness can instill a sense of strength that overpowers bitterness. Forgiveness can instill a sense of strength that overpowers bitterness. You know, you got to do this. You got to sit there, through meditation, whether you journal, whether you're just speaking it. You have to do these things. You can't just say, if someone's really wronged you, they're good, and then the feelings come back up, and you just try to, like I said, you just sit there burying the feelings. You can't do that. You actually have to go in, and you have to do the work. You have to put it in. If you really want to move past things, you have to do the work. You know, the work, as they call it, saying I've heard over the years, the work to stay at rest, the work to be at peace, the work to forgive. You have to do that work. It doesn't come overnight. It is something that you have to work on. So it can instill a sense of strength that overpowers bitterness. If forgiveness ultimately instills peace or healing, there is no action too severe for forgiveness. So now we're getting into some major forgiveness. There's nothing that anyone can do to you, or no situation that can get you to the place where you don't forgive. You know, I think about Jesus. I think about the cross. That's what comes to my mind. He made the ultimate forgiveness by saying, I forgive mankind, and I want to release them from the burdens of their wrongs. And I want to put that on myself. And that's what I think about when I think about forgiveness, you know. And so I just think about, you know, resentment. It sucks out a massive amount of energy, and it drains you. It takes away the person that you are. So you want to try to move past resentment. You want to forgive. You want to go through those 5 steps. Those are all important. So now that you've done that, you know, as we work through that, forgiving someone else, now that you've trying to work on forgiving someone, which is a conscious effort, now a lot of times we don't forgive ourselves. So we've done a wrong, we've done someone wrong, we've done a group of people wrong, maybe we've done our coworker wrong, a family member wrong, and we have not forgiven ourselves. We shame ourselves, we guilt ourselves. Yes, we release them, but we're like, man, I'm just a terrible person. I'm worthless. I always do this. Always never type of thinking. And I'll never be good again. I'm not really a good person. And I've heard people say that. I've heard people that are really good people, really kind people say, I'm a bad person. Or I'll never amount to anything. I'm just a worthless human being. I suck as a person. I did these things wrong. I deserve this. I deserve these things to happen to me. I'm not saying if there's that commit crimes and there's a penalty for that crime. That's not what I'm saying. These are things that they live with. They live with the bitterness and anger at themselves, and they haven't forgiven themselves. Maybe they've done an ultimate wrong to someone, or they've hurt someone in some way that's deep, but they hadn't stepped back and say, you know what? I need to let myself go. I need to love myself. It says, love others as you love yourself. You have to love yourself first, love who you are, before you can really truly learn to do any of these things. It's actually the first step. I messed up in this situation, coming to grips with and saying, I messed up. I did the wrong thing. I made the wrong choice. I said the wrong words. I shared something I wasn't supposed to share, or I shared too much. I gossiped about this person. I slandered this person's name. I did these things, and saying, man, I need to forgive myself. So forgiving another person is one thing, but what happens when we commit the offense ourselves? It's important to take responsibility for the mistakes, but intense guilt and shame aren't a productive outcome in the long run. So when you do a wrong, when you're the one doing the wrong, you're on the other end of it. You're not the person forgiving. You're the person who needs forgiveness. When you've done the wrong, you'll have these feelings of intense guilt and shame. You'll have these things come upon you, and you shouldn't hold on to those things. You need to learn to let go of them. The process of self-forgiveness can be a painful challenge, but deeply valuable. Key to this process is owning up to your mistakes, understanding why they occurred, and helping to rectify the situation. That's huge. That's very huge to do these things. You're acknowledging what I did was wrong, or who these things I did were wrong, or I said the wrong thing. I did talk about this person. I did slander this person's name. I did commit this offense, whatever it is, but now I say, okay, it's there. Now I need to forgive myself, and now I need to work on not doing that again, not going back and hurting that person again, not crossing that boundary again, but saying I need to be a different person, a different individual, and I need to learn to work on not doing that and forgiving myself and loving myself, and realize, hey, in the end, I'm a human being and I do make mistakes, and I will probably make more mistakes, but let me minimize this area where I'm making mistakes, because a lot of times things happen to show you, hey, as the saying says, a wise man, a wise woman loves correction. These things, they pop out. Boom, this is a problem in your life. Boom, whoa. And you see it and you're like, whoa, this is huge. Now you can choose to say, I'm not going to fix that. I'm going to move on. I'm going to make new friends. I'm going to form new relationships. And I'm not going to even worry about that. I'm not going to forget. I'm just not going to try to acknowledge what I'm feeling inside, that I need to reconcile with this person, or I need to forgive myself, or let the situation go. And you're not trying to work towards that. You're not trying to, you just, like I said, when you bury the anger and bitterness towards unforgiving, you can also bury that for not forgiving yourself, and that can cause problems, in relationships, in marriages, and friendships, in your work relationships. It can cause problems to where, it can affect your personality, where if you were really a bubbly person, or maybe you had a certain personality, that it can make you to where you don't forgive yourself, and you don't release it, and you don't realize, hey man, I messed up, I blew it, but I forgive myself, and I want to release that. I need to let go. I need to be able to love myself and realize, hey, I can start fresh. I can start new again. I can own up to this stuff. I can work on fixing these issues, and I can move on in my life. So, but begin by acknowledging that you're at fault. Take responsibility for the hurt you caused. Reflect on why the event occurred, and identify how to avoid a similar offense in the future. Then forgive yourself by focusing on the thought, saying it aloud, or writing it down. Very important. These are things I believe in journaling, so I believe in writing stuff down. Even if you're just writing it down to get it out of your mind. You got all this stuff, all these the hurts, these anger towards yourself, towards other people, towards other people, and you're writing it down. I'm angry at John. Man, I hate myself, or I think I'm not worthy of love. And you start writing these things down. I don't need forgiveness. How could I ever be a good person again? Can I ever, be a good employee again, or a good wife, or a husband? I cheated on this person. Will I ever be faithful again? You write all these things down. I'm just throwing things out there, and you write them down, and you start going, oh wow, look at this, and you start saying, I forgive myself for that. I am worthy of love. I can be faithful. I can forgive. I cannot gossip about this person anymore. I can be a good coworker. I can be a good partner. I can be a better human being. I can work towards it. And by acknowledging that and forgiving yourself, focusing on it, meditating on it, writing it down, and then saying, it's there, I acknowledge it. And when you start to do that, when you start to write down and identify these emotions you're feeling, some people can't identify them because they've been burying them so long. They've been burying the unforgiveness. They've been burying how they feel towards themselves, the shame and guilt and condemnation they put on themselves. And they really aren't able to just say, hey, I need to move past this so that I can be a better person. I can be a better spouse. I can be a better person. And when they start to write these things down, and I've discovered this. See, there's my journal right here. And I write things down. I don't always write down, dear diary or dear journal, here's how my day went. But I write down some things sometimes. I forgive myself. I love myself. I can go forward. I'm a blessed person. I have love in my life. I'm compassionate. And saying these things, my old pastor used to say confessions. You just confess things. A bunch of confessions. And saying these things, and some people are like, that's hogwash. But what you say, it goes into your brain. Your brain sometimes doesn't know the difference between certain things. When you're in your mind and you're rehearsing in your mind something that happened to you, and maybe it didn't happen to you, but in your mind you're rehearsing, your brain has hard time knowing the difference between, did it really happen, or am I just making this up in my brain? And so you have to brain dump, as they call it, and get those thoughts on paper, or get those thoughts. Maybe you record it on the recorder or something. And you hear it back. You hear yourself saying it. You have to get those out of your mind and get those at a place so you can see what you can get those feelings into words, and then work on forgiving yourself and forgiving the other person. So then you go another step, and you go up. If this is something that you can do, you go to apologize to the person. So I think when someone says, you did this to me, you can ask what I did. You can be specific, but a lot of times we know we did something. We may not be able to identify it exactly or recall it, but the best thing is just to say, now if you know for a fact you've not done something, you really like, this person's crazy, but most of the time we've done something, we don't know what it is, but it's best to just say, I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry about this situation, and just be real. You're saying this A, B, and C. Maybe I'm not seeing the whole picture. Maybe I only see, yes, I did do C, but I didn't do A and B. But just say, I'm sorry for C. And you said that here's A and B. I apologize for the thing that I may have done to do you wrong. I'm sorry about that. Now, can we reconcile? Can we have some sort of relationship? And I'm going to get to this a little bit later. Sometimes the word is no. We can't. But that's okay, because we can still move past that too. So apologizing to the person and try to improve their life in a meaningful way. So now you're whatever that means to you. It could just mean the fact that I'm going to think good about this person. I'm going to try to restore a relationship. When their birthday comes around, I want to give them a birthday present. Or I'm going to send them a good thought. I'm going to send them a happy thought. Even if I'm the one that did them wrong. Say, hey man, hope you do good in life, man. Hope everything's good with you. Or, hey honey, I hope this goes good for you. And working on that, working towards that. I think it's so important, that we don't have hooks in us. That's what anger and resentment and bitterness and shame and guilt is. They're all hooks, and they get in you and they ruin your life, and they affect your life, and they affect your job. They affect your performance in whatever you're doing. And we need to learn to try to let those things not have hooks in us, and say, I'm going to, like in my life, I just believe in praying for people. I'm going to pray for that person. I'm going to see that person. I'm going to pray for them. But I'm angry at them. But I'm going to pray for them. And eventually what will happen is, when you pray for them, when you think good thoughts about them, when you write in your journal, I'm going to love this person. I'm going to love myself. Eventually those things start becoming reality, but you've got to do it. You got to go through the process of it. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Like I said, it doesn't know the difference in it actually being done or you saying it. So when you start to doing that, your brain, it'll start to move you forward and to bring you into a better place in life. So the benefits of forgiveness. What a great topic today. I mean, we're deep diving today, man. I'm sure some of you watching today may think, man, I don't know if I can do this. It's not easy. It's not easy, and emotions will come up, and things will happen. Whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, acknowledging. I think one thing is with women are really great about acknowledging some of this stuff and the hurt and the anger and sharing it. And sometimes us men, we're not as great at it. But we need to find people in our lives that we can share too these things. Have people pray for us. Have people talk to people. Talk to other people. Talk to people talk to family members that you can trust. If you're having trouble moving on and you're having trouble forgiving yourself or forgiving other people, maybe you need to bring someone else into the equation, and to help you with that, to talk to. But it's very important that you do. Very important that you do those things. Forgiving others can take time when we are really hurt. So we talked about forgiving people, moving on, forgiving yourself. So what if we got to the place now that we've gone past, I don't forgive them, I'm resenting them, and now I'm going to get revenge on them, and so I'm going to make them pay. If you got into that place, that's not a good place to be. I know there's things that can happen to people where we think, I'm going to get revenge. And there may be a situation where revenge needs to be done ultimately with a situation that's very, very extreme. But I think for 98%, for most of it, the best revenge is no revenge. You're thinking, man, they've got to pay for what they've done. Maybe you see this person doing other people wrong. They're hurting others like they hurt you. But the best revenge is no revenge. And when it comes to the extreme cases, that's where law and order comes in. That's where law enforcement and the court system and justice comes in, I think that's where God allows the law of the land, because that is the way of correcting behaviors that can't be corrected through, talking to someone or just, working on it one-on-one and handling extreme people. Psychopaths, sociopaths, handling those people that have extreme cases where they hurt people and they kill people. So those situations are an exception to it, but there is the law and justice that need to take care in those situations. So the best revenge in most situations is no revenge. So pray for them. I express that so much. Pray for them. Maybe you're not a believer and you I don't believe in a deity, but I think the best thing is maybe you just see them in your mind, and that way of acknowledging that is to see yourself forgiving them, see yourself letting them go. But I believe in praying for them. Forgiveness and forgiveness therapy has been linked to greater feelings of happiness, hopefulness, and optimism. The process of forgiveness can also protect against serious conditions such as anxiety and depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. The act was also shown to benefit cardiac patterns by significantly lowering their blood pressure. Man, a lot of what people are going through today, I'm not saying all of it. I know some of it's genetic, some of it's how they eat, but there is a lot of stuff going on with people physically where they're going to the doctor. Sometimes the doctor's like, I can't figure what's wrong with you. But some of it, a lot of it is linked to unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, resentment, and them holding on to it and being stressed about it and letting it affect it. If that body, the cortisol level is just staying at such a high level all the time, they're in this fight or flight, scenario in their mind, replaying things, traumatic things that have happened in the situations, and not trying to move past them and not forgiving and not letting go of situations, that can affect you physically. And it's something that you need to let go. And some people have high anxiety, sometimes just because they haven't worked towards forgiving themselves in a situation with their family member, or forgiving a family member, or forgiving someone in their lives. And that's something that we have to work towards. Very important. We don't need to live our lives angry, because it can affect us physically. It goes from here to here, the emotions, your brain to your emotions to then your physical body, and then ultimately out of you too. And it can cause you to do things that are bad. If you're angry on the roadway, I'm angry, and you run someone off the road and you kill them, there's going to be a consequence, and there's going to be an action that takes place to correct that behavior in you. Or you can get to the place where you say, I'm angry, but I'm going to let them drive. Now, I brought up traffic because I have had some really bad road rage in the past. I've not run anybody off the road, but I've had some road rage where, I'm telling them they're number one, or, I'm yelling at them, screaming at them, riding their rear, and getting mad, or I'm a very passive aggressive driver, slowing way down and making sure they're stuck in traffic, and working my own personal life to say, I gotta let that go. Because if I get out there in a wreck and I get killed, or I hurt someone, I'm taking away their loved one. And if I get killed, I'm affecting my family. It's selfish of me to do that, And so thinking about some of that, not taking revenge. So harboring anger and resentment leads to the body to release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline whenever the person comes to mind. So every time that person comes to your mind and the resentment, that you're actually bringing high levels of cortisol and adrenaline into your life, because you're not letting the person go, and you're not trying to work towards mentally forgiving them, giving them that big mental hug. I'm not saying that you have to give them a hug. I'm going to repeat that again. But trying in your mind to get into a place of compassion for them, to understanding. When you don't do that, there's a steady stream of these chemicals that are just flowing in your body, and they're causing stress and anxiety, and also they're dampening your creativity and your problem solving. So, it's been said that worry, the word worry, means to strangle. It means to strangle, and so I think that a lot of that things tie into in the same way with stress and anxiety and unforgiveness. It's strangling you. It's causing you to be impaired. It's handicapping you. It's keeping you from living your best life. And so I think if you can work towards forgiving that person and not living in anger and resentment, that can be very important in your life. So I think it's very important to try to let those people go, so that those things, you can flow freely. If it affects you physically, that means it's affecting your blood flow, it's affecting your heart rate, it's affecting your brain, your thinking, and you can't make rational decisions because you're letting these things, that cortisol and those chemicals, are going into your bloodstream, and adrenaline all the time. And you're in a constant battle. You're battling in your brain. You're battling because you haven't worked out that forgiveness, forgiving yourself and forgiving other people. So what are the emotional? So we talked about these things you need to do. So what are the benefits? Forgiveness offers many positive psychological developments, such as reducing unhealthy anger. So it reduces unhealthy anger. It repairs potential valuable relationships. It grows you as a person. And exercising goodness in and of itself, no matter the response. In addition to personal benefits, modeling forgiveness for others may lead to intergenerational and even societal improvement. So when you forgive others and your family members see you forgiving others and you've letting go of situations and you're forgiving yourself and not beating yourself up too much, the people in your life, they see that, and it models a behavior. And then also it's how you can raise your kids like that. Hey buddy, we're going to forgive this person. I know they stole your lollipop, but let them have the lollipop. I'll get you another lollipop, whatever that means, And so we can begin to teach our kids that, and teach our family members that, and teach our friends that, and to share, love is contagious. Forgiveness is contagious. Forgiving myself is contagious. It's like, I feel so good. I'm not beating myself up anymore. I'm taking it easy on myself now. I feel so good. I'm not mad at this person anymore. I'm letting them go. When I see them, I don't get angry. And so letting it go. Holding no record of wrong and no grudges, being unprovoked and holding no records of wrong. You simply love them, seeing beyond your need for them to be or not be any certain way. So let's think about that. I'm going to forgive this person. I'm going to let them go. I'm going to release these feelings. Now, that's on me, right? I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to let myself go. I'm going to try to work past that. And I'm not going to beat myself up anymore. I'm not going to shame myself or guilt myself, because I am worthy of love, and I am also worthy of being forgiven, And so I need to do that. And then it's also saying, I've forgiven this person. I've let them go. I'm not going to try to change them now. I'm going to let them be who they are. They may go on to hurt someone else. I'm not going to try to change them, because I'm the one being changed by the actions that I do, regardless of what they do, regardless if they come by, if they're like, you want to reconcile, and they're like, no, I don't care about you anymore. I don't want to be around you anymore. I hate you. When I think of you, I don't like you. Regardless of that, they may still be mad and upset with you. You're saying they don't have to change who they are. They don't have to be anything. I'm not going to want them to be anything around me. But in my heart, when I see them, I'm going to have love for them. I have nothing but love for you. I'm going to think good thoughts of them. I'm going to wish the best for them. Now, like I said, this is a process. It's working through it. But I'm going to see them and I'm going to say, you know what? They did these things to me that are wrong. Or I'm going to see this boss. He did this that's wrong to me. I'm going to see my partner, my spouse. They cheated on me. They did these things. But like I said, if they do that, you have the right to abandon ship. But I'm saying, if you can get to a place where you work past that and you say, they did me wrong, but I'm going to let them go and I'm going to forgive them. And that is huge, a huge thing to do. But then you don't try to change them. In a marriage relationship, you would try to be like, hey, let's work on this. Can you be a better person? And they can work on that's a little bit different. But I'm just saying, initially, you say, I'm not going to try to make them into something they're not. I'm going to let them go. That guy that cut me off in traffic, he's probably still going to be angry and go on his way. He's probably going to, cause someone else's day to be bad. But guess what? My day's not going to be bad anymore. That boss that fired me, man, he really messed up things. I'm in a bad place financially, but you know what? I'm going to let him go and I'm going to move on. He may still make someone else's life, a living hell, but he's not going to make mine a living hell anymore. And those people that, did me wrong, I may not agree with them and we may not see eye to eye, but I'm going to forgive them and I'm going to release them. And I think that's so important in our lives, forgiving and releasing people, because you know what? We can't become complete people if that doesn't happen. The true meaning of how you love someone is when they dishonor you, not when they demonstrate love to you. So I know we're getting into some really things. How can I love this person? I don't love them, But I really think if we're getting to a place where we're really truly forgiving people, we see these people with compassion. And we start saying, you know what? I'm going to have compassion for this person. I don't have to let them back in my life. But I'm gonna learn to move on from it and say, I care about you. I care about this person now. And if we can get to that place where we're like, have a compassion for them and we want them to have a good well-being and we want them to be prosperous and healthy and live their life good. I'm not saying we do that with everybody. Sometimes we just let people go and move on with our life. But if we can get to that place with people, man, that is such a great place to be. Because no longer are we holding on to, we're actually trying to understand and look at people the way God looks at them. and through eyes of compassion. So that's a great place to get to. So Ernest Hemingway said that there is not always an explanation for everything. So you don't always have to have that explanation for everything. You don't always have to have the answers to everything. And a lot of times, the answers are not going to come like you want them to come.